G'day traders, welcome to the Traders Outpost. Today we've released our Portfolio Compiler suite of tools, which is now available in the shop, and I thought I'd spend some time in part one of this two-part series giving you an overview of how you can use these tools to compile very robust portfolios. If you would like to pick up this suite of tools for your own personal use, then just click on the link to the shop below this video. So let's say that over the course of your trading career, you have tested literally thousands of different systems. But today, you would like to assess whether or not these old strategies still possess a possible edge. And if they do, consider including them in a portfolio of your favourite strategies. The Portfolio Compiler suite of tools allows you to do this quickly, engaging a number of well-worn techniques applied by modern portfolio managers today. So let's get into it. In the example used for this overview, I have 53 different strategies, each of which appear to demonstrate a weak edge. Some of the strategies are discretionary in nature, some are fully automated, some are momentum chasers and trend following in nature, and some are mean reverting in nature. It is likely that over your trading career you will also compile a broad array of different trading strategies with different trading styles as well. So let's have a look at how they've been set up in the database. When I open the database, I'm presented with a main menu which is arranged in a hierarchical order. We start at the system list level, where strategies are categorized into groups possessing similar characteristics. In this example, when I open the systems list in the menu, I see that we have 5 different systems categorized in this database. Each system has common attributes that allow us to conveniently categorize strategies by their broad characteristics. If I double-click on each list item, I'm then taken to the form view for further information on the system. For example, this ATS Bollinger Mean Reversion system comprised strategies developed using the ATS Bollinger Mean Reversion backtest template, which is available in our shop. When I double-click on this item, I access further information about this system, such as the date the system was created, whether the system is currently active for portfolio collation or not, notes about the system, and any relevant attachments that provide further information about this system. I can also see that we have 10 different strategies categorized to this Bollinger Mean Reverting system, spanning an array of liquid forex instruments, equity indices, and commodity CFDs. Now let's navigate back to the system list. The discretionary momentum trader on M30 represent those strategies which I've traded live and have comprehensively tested in the walk-forward environment for the last 7 years. These strategies still have an element of discretion in their application, but have a solid track record across a number of asset classes. Under this system, we have 24 different strategies trading across indices, forex, metals, and energies. The MT4 EA divergence strategies represent data mine strategies which have used logic-based design principles to enforce a divergent outcome in their trading style. We can see that we have 14 different strategies categorized under this system definition. The MT4 EA convergence strategies, like the prior case, are data mined expert advisors that have been designed for convergence, and we have 5 different strategies categorized under this system description. And finally, the ATS Donchian breakout system represent those strategies developed using our MSXL backtest template that is also available in our shop. At the moment, we have not yet assigned any strategies under this system listing at the moment. So in summary, what we have in our database at the moment are 4 separate systems comprising 53 strategies, which have been developed over a period of time. The advantage of this database is that we can have a vast array of different systems and thousands of strategies, which we can easily find and update at a later date with comprehensive information attached to each strategy and system that allow us to quickly understand how they were created and their particular characteristics. The database therefore provides a one-stop shop repository for all your trading activities and effectively provides you with a trade journal of your trading career. Because we have stored all our details in this MS Access database, we get the full use of powerful search and filter tools that we may want to use to filter these listings and hone in on the powerful performers. For example, let's go to the strategy list on the main menu and click on the entire listing. Here we are presented with the 53 different strategies that are currently stored in this database. But let's say that I only want to find those strategies that have been tested on the M30 timeframe. I simply use the filter function at the top of the listing for timeframe and select M30 from the list. The listing then displays 24 different strategies, all applicable to the M30 timeframe. If I close the listing and then return to it, it removes all applied filters to return to the original listing. You have a broad array of sort and filter functionality across any of these lists available within the database to allow you to quickly hone in on those strategies you are seeking to deploy or retest. So now that we have a listing of a broad range of strategies in our database and have updated their trade histories for each strategy using latest available data, it is now time to access the portfolio for the portfolio compilation exercise. On the main menu, we click the Compiler button and we then enter the Compiler form view. The tables on the left-hand side of the compiler provide a list of all systems in the database and all strategies in the database. The active field in each of these tables signifies which systems and which strategies are currently being used for portfolio compilation on the right-hand side of the portfolio compiler. If I want to exclude any system or strategy from this compilation, I simply uncheck the active field of the relevant system or individual strategy and then click on the Refresh button. The compiler table itself on the right-hand side of this form view comprise a list of all strategies that are currently flagged as active for portfolio compilation. Now you can possibly imagine how big your database is going to get over time, with potentially thousands of strategies available in your database, some of which may have an edge or not. So let's say we want to quickly hone in on some potential strategies with an edge that may be potential inclusions in a robust portfolio. How do we quickly go about doing this? We start this exercise by seeing that we have a total of 53 strategies available in our portfolio compiler. But let's say we want to compile a fully automated portfolio of strategies for our collection. The first thing we will want to do is exclude those discretionary systems that we have in our database. So to do this, we deactivate the discretionary systems by toggling the active field of that entire system to the off condition. So after hitting the refresh button, we see that our list has now reduced to 29 possible candidates. Now we may want to check the test date range for all these strategies and ensure that all of them have been backtested across the same date range. For example, we may find that some of these strategies have not been recently updated in our database and therefore hold data that is only applicable to a different date range than the one we want to test. So to do this, we use the sort date range of the test start and test end fields of the compiler to find a common date range across all the strategies that we may want to include in our portfolio. For example, when I sort by test start, I can quickly see that some of the strategies have a test range later than 2005. I may therefore want to exclude these particular strategies. To do this, I double-click on those strategies with a test start range of above, say, the 1st of January 2006, and deactivate these strategies from the compilation, like this. After clicking on the refresh button, I now see that we have 25 strategies to work with, and 4 have now been deactivated. So now I sort by the test end field to ensure that these strategies have a common end date for testing, like this. As we can see, some of the strategies have only been tested up to the 31st of January 2019, while others have been tested into February 2019. The current total trades for the portfolio at this stage is 6,773 trades. But let's say I still want to use all the strategies available, but ensure that the common test date range for the entire portfolio is restricted to a common date range of all strategies, say between 1st of January 2006 and 31st of January 2019. To do this, I apply a global test date range for the entire portfolio using the yellow date range cells at the top of the compiler, and then hit the refresh button. As you can see, the compiler analytics has now refreshed and is representative of the revised date range for the entire portfolio, with only 5,721 trades recorded during this common period to all active strategies. Of course, if I wanted to include those strategies that I've deactivated, I would need to retest them and update the database statistics. However, I'm quite happy with the current strategies that I've got actively compiled in my portfolio at the moment, so I won't be doing this at this point in time. So now we're getting close to taking these compiled strategies to the portfolio creator for further testing. But before I do, I run my eye over the statistics of the compiled strategies and see if there are any other obvious issues with the strategies in the compiled collection. All the strategies have a positive compound growth rate, so that's good. But I do notice that some strategies have a very small sample size of less than 20 trades. I therefore want to exclude these strategies for a later date when they have a longer trade history and more trades under the belt, so I simply deactivate these 2 strategies by following the same process as before. After clicking on the refresh button, we can see that we now have 23 strategies all active across a common date range. If I want to export the trade details of this revised compiled collection to another program for further analysis, I can simply click on the Trade Details Export button at the top of the screen, and the trade records associated with this revised compiled collection will be available for export. So now, after the compilation exercise has been undertaken, I'm now in a position to take this to the final stages of the process in the Portfolio Creator spreadsheet. So let's now open up the Portfolio Creator spreadsheet and get cracking. When you open the spreadsheet, you will notice 7 worksheet tabs at the base of the screen. These act as a menu for the spreadsheet, and we start the portfolio creation process by commencing on the leftmost worksheet and then progressing towards the right through the tabs in a staged manner. So let's start with the Analytics Dump tab first. The first thing we do is click on the Clear button, which refreshes this worksheet. We then navigate back to our database to the compiler module and click on the button Portfolio Analytics Dump. This will then generate a table which we need to export into the spreadsheet. So click on the leftmost table selector grid to highlight the entire table, and then select Ctrl+C on the keyboard to copy this table to memory. Then navigate back to the Analytics Dump tab and select cell A7, then press Ctrl+V to paste this table into the worksheet. We are done. Now let's move to the Returns Dump tab and follow a similar process. Click on the Clear Data to refresh the worksheet and then navigate back to the database once again. Close the prior table that was generated. and navigate to the compiler module and select the Portfolio Returns Dump button. Copy this entire table to the clipboard and then navigate back to the spreadsheet and paste the clipboard into cell F7 of the Returns Dump worksheet. That's all there is to it. We can now navigate to the Raw Portfolio tab and have a good look at the results. The Raw Portfolio provides a representation of how this compiled result would operate as a portfolio without any further treatment. You can see that we have compiled 23 strategies with an assumed opening balance of the raw portfolio of $50,000. We can change this opening balance to any desired amount and observe the effect on the results by changing this level of commencing equity. To determine what level of equity you are comfortable with, then have a look at the maximum drawdown result for the entire raw portfolio in cell N3. You will see that it currently reads as 4.5% with a $50,000 allocation. But let's assume that your maximum drawdown tolerance is, say, 10%. So recognising that your worst drawdown is always ahead of you in the future, you might want to set this maximum drawdown tolerance at 5%, giving lots of room to satisfy your drawdown pain threshold. So by adjusting the commencing equity to, say, $45,000, you can see that your revised maximum drawdown is now 4.9% and fits within your tolerance levels. So now we have adjusted the opening equity balance, let's have a look at the rest of the raw portfolio results. The overall results appear to be producing a very healthy compound annual growth rate of 12.6%, with a maximum drawdown of 4.9%. But there is much more we can do in terms of additional portfolio treatment to make this result even better. By looking at the non-compounded equity curve of the portfolio, you can see that you have a maximum drawdown of 4.9% in around September 2007. When we then move to the monthly compounded equity to the right of this chart, you can see that the maximum drawdown attributed to compounding moves to August 2010. You will also note that the individual raw equity returns reflect that approximately 4 individual strategies are dominant contributors to the overall result. And you can see which strategies these are by referring to the total return column of the table. By referring to the skew column, you can see that some of the strategies have significant negative skew. This is a feature that we want to avoid, as negative skew can be associated with strategies that have been curve fit for a particular set of market conditions, or are symptoms of strategies such as mean reverting strategies, grid trading strategies and martingale variants that reflect many small wins with the occasional very large loss. Given the ability for these type of strategies to wipe out your portfolio with a few unfavourable large losses, we therefore want to eliminate these strategies as part of the portfolio treatment process to ensure the portfolio is more rigorous. If you refer to the correlation column, you can see that some strategies are more highly correlated with the return stream of the overall portfolio than others. This can be disadvantageous to the overall portfolio, particularly when strategies are highly correlated during unfavourable market conditions. You may want to remove highly correlated strategies from the portfolio to smooth out the volatility of returns during these adverse market conditions. Now we can see that over the data range selected in the Portfolio Compiler database, we have 5,701 trades recorded across the 23 strategies, and each strategy itself possesses different relative drawdown levels ranging from between 1.3% to 27%. This is a problem for the portfolio as it highlights that in its current raw configuration, the portfolio has not been risk-weighted. When we compile different strategies into a portfolio, we want to ensure that their relative risk weighting is standardised so that no single system unduly affects the risk weighting of the entire portfolio. For example, we can see that the last strategy in the list possesses high adverse volatility, producing a maximum drawdown of 27%. In relation to the entire portfolio, this particular strategy significantly biases the overall result of the drawdown of the total portfolio. So we want to standardise each strategy in accordance with their maximum drawdown levels to eliminate this bias. To do this, we move to the Risk-Weighted Portfolio tab to observe the effect of this standardised strategy treatment across the portfolio. So now we refer to the multiplier column of the risk-weighted spreadsheet, where we adopt a maximum standardised drawdown tolerance for each strategy in cell D3. By adopting this threshold level across all strategies, we re-weight the applied position sizing for every strategy using a multiplier to achieve this desired standard drawdown threshold. In this example, I've chosen a maximum drawdown tolerance of 10% for each strategy in isolation, and the multiplier has adjusted the method of position sizing accordingly. You can see from the overall portfolio result that the risk-weighted result of the entire portfolio has now significantly improved over the raw portfolio result. Have a look now at the individual risk-weighted equity returns of the portfolio. You'll see that one strategy stands out as an exceptional performer in the portfolio by virtue of its risk-weighted characteristics. This is unlike the raw solution, where we had 4 good performers, but their performance was more attributed to their position sizing than their effectiveness. This re-weighting method sorts out the wheat from the chaff in terms of strategy effectiveness without cherry-picking in advance those strategies that appear to be the best performers by virtue of their original position sizing variables applied. Furthermore, the selection ensures that each system possesses a balanced risk-weighting impact on the total portfolio. If we refer to the Summary tab of this spreadsheet, we can quickly see the impact to the overall portfolio from its raw condition to its risk-weighted treatment. In this particular example, we see that the raw portfolio produced a non-compound annual growth rate of 12.56% with a maximum drawdown of 4.89%, compared against the risk-weighted non-compounded treatment of a 14.36% compound annual growth rate with a maximum drawdown of 1.79%. We can also observe the effect if we use monthly compounding of the portfolio, where profits are reinvested back into the portfolio on a monthly basis. In this instance, the raw portfolio produces a compound annual growth rate of 30.11% with a maximum drawdown of 9.2%, whereas the risk-weighted compounded solution produces a CAGR of 40.66% with a similar maximum drawdown of 9.16% over the same period. So these results indicate that we are heading on the right track by further treating the portfolio through a risk-weighted treatment to ensure that the portfolio has a balanced representation of risk-weighted strategies. So now we're getting to the pointy end of this exercise, where we adopt additional measures to ensure that the portfolio is robust and will not lead to any nasty surprises. We now move to the Portfolio Compiler worksheet of the spreadsheet to fine-tune the overall result. So the first thing we do on entering the Portfolio Compiler worksheet is to click on the Clear Prior Compilation button to refresh this worksheet. But be patient, this takes a bit of time. Then we set the equity levels for the compiled portfolio at the same level as the risk-weighted portfolio, in this case $45,000. Now we refer to the risk-weighted skew column. We are on the lookout for those strategies which have high negative skew and are symptomatic of curve fit strategies that have been configured for a particular class of market condition. These strategies are convergent in nature, and their skew profile is a result of having lots of small wins and some significant losses. In terms of a portfolio, we want to remove these strategies, as their potential for a string of large losses can have a large impact on the overall portfolio result. I've discussed this at length on our website, so if you want more information on this touchy subject, then please refer to my blog posts on this subject. So the conditional formatting in this spreadsheet automatically identifies those strategies which have high negative skew and are highlighted in red, and we will exclude those with excessive negative skew from the portfolio by typing 1 in the adjacent column next to them. In this particular example, I have eliminated 4 strategies from the portfolio as I regard them to have excessive negative skew. If they did have a negative MAR ratio, just like in the prior example, we'd move to the column Eliminate Negative MAR and put a 1 in the column next to the strategy we want to deactivate. We then move to the Correlation Statistics column that reflects the level of correlation between each strategy and the overall risk-weighted portfolio. We have a preference for those strategies that offer low or negative correlation to the overall portfolio. But if we find that some strategies are very highly positively correlated to the overall portfolio, with correlation levels of above, say, 0.7, then we would turn them off by selecting 1 in the adjacent column to them. Now, only turn off those with a very high positive correlation, as in later parts of this exercise we'll be looking at correlation in a new way, looking at mapping the correlation of the equity curve to the overall portfolio, which is a more sound way of identifying those strategies that are positively correlated during adverse market conditions. So in this particular example, I'm quite happy with the result, as no strategy appears to be too highly correlated with the overall portfolio, so there's no need for any further adjustment here. So now that these steps have been undertaken, we can now move on to the equity curve mapping process, which is the last stage of the portfolio treatment process. So let's move to the tab Equity Curves for Compilation. So on this worksheet, we can see that we have 5 columns of charts. At the top of each column, we have the equity curve representation of the monthly compounded compiled portfolio position. This reflects where we are now in terms of the steps we have already undertaken to compile a portfolio. We also have a summary of the performance results in terms of the compound annual growth rate, the maximum drawdown, and the MAR ratio for the compounded risk-weighted portfolio of our prior step and the compounded compiled result that we have now. The aim of this final exercise is to review how each return stream of the active strategies compile into the overall portfolio equity curve and see whether we can improve the compiled result with some final return stream treatment. So at the moment, our compounded risk-weighted solution produces a MAR ratio of 4.44 and our current compiled result produces a MAR ratio of 4.02. Let's see if we can do better than this. The MAR ratio represents the compound annual growth rate divided by the maximum drawdown and is a representation of the risk signature of the strategy and the portfolio. By improving the MAR ratio gives us the ability to leverage up our position sizing within the entire global portfolio to achieve higher compounded annual growth rates. So the aim of this exercise is to see if we can obtain a higher MAR ratio for our compiled portfolio than our risk-weighted solution. Now the red arrows on the screen are used to map the overall portfolio result with each individual strategy of the portfolio. So we use these red arrows to highlight the maximum drawdown of the overall portfolio and map it to those particular strategies that are contributing to that drawdown profile. By being able to reduce the maximum drawdown of the global portfolio, we can therefore obtain a higher MAR ratio, which allows us to leverage up our position sizing. So what we do is this. We align the red arrows with the maximum drawdown of the compiled portfolio. For example, we can clearly see that the maximum drawdown for the overall portfolio occurs in December 2018. So let's move our arrow markers for each column to this position. Simply move those arrow markers we don't use away to the left of the screen. So you can see that I have now placed an arrow for each column on top of the maximum drawdown period of the overall portfolio. To improve the MAR ratio, what we want to do is to turn off those strategies that are unduly contributing to this maximum drawdown and therefore hopefully improve the overall robustness of the portfolio. Having placed the arrow markers at the maximum drawdown of the overall portfolio, I then scroll through the active equity curves of each individual strategy and see which strategy is contributing to this feature of the overall portfolio. I can see in this example that I have two major contributors to the maximum drawdown. Now what you do is turn them off individually by typing 1 in the yellow cell above them and observe the overall effect on the portfolio. So let's do this to the first possible culprit. But remember to take note of the MAR ratio of the monthly compiled solution before doing so. In this case, we have a MAR ratio of 4.02. So I turn off this strategy and then wait for the recalculation to observe the revised result. In this case, the MAR ratio has improved to 4.54 and the maximum drawdown of the overall result has reduced to 8.23. Now let's turn this strategy back on and then turn off the other potential offender. In this case, the MAR ratio now increases to 5.1, an even better result, and the maximum drawdown has dropped substantially to 7.15%. So let's keep this one deactivated. Now let's return to the overall portfolio result and see whether we need to adjust the location of the red arrows to a new maximum drawdown location. In this case, our maximum drawdown is still in December 2018, so we may be able to also turn off the other offending strategy. Let's do this remembering where we currently are in the result of a maximum drawdown of 7.15% and a MAR ratio of 5.10. By also turning off the other strategy, our MAR ratio has leapt to 6.05 with a maximum drawdown of 5.93%. This is an excellent result. Can we go further with this technique? Well, let's revert back to the overall portfolio result and now realign those red arrows to reflect the maximum drawdown periods now. Now that we have aligned our red indicator arrows to the revised maximum drawdowns, we see that we now have two similar maximum drawdown peaks at around November 2012 and December 2018. We might be lucky and find a strategy contributor that we can turn off to improve this overall result. I think I've found one, so let's see the result when I turn it off. Fantastic! I now have an improved MAR ratio of the compounded result to 6.79 and reduced the maximum drawdown for the portfolio to 5.12%, which nicely fits within my maximum drawdown tolerance of approximately 10%. Now you can keep on tinkering to adjust the result, but you will reach a level in which further adjustments are either marginal in nature or provide a worse result. So I'm quite happy with where I've left it and I'll leave it there at the moment. So congratulations, you have now reached a result where you have manipulated the risk profile of each return stream to improve the overall results for the entire portfolio. Let's now refer to the Summary Page Worksheet tab and see the results of this entire process. We started with a raw portfolio of 23 different strategies derived from our compiler database. These strategies, under a compiled portfolio solution and a commencing equity balance of $45,000, produced a compounded result of 30.11% compound annual growth rate, with a maximum drawdown of 9.2% and MAR ratio of 3.27. We then risk-weighted this portfolio, and with the same 23 strategies, and an initial opening balance of $45,000, improved this result to a 40.66% compound annual growth rate with a maximum drawdown of 9.16% over the period and MAR ratio of 4.44. And after identifying weaknesses in our strategy compilation in terms of their risk contribution to the overall portfolio, we deactivated 7 instruments to reduce the portfolio size from 23 to 16 strategies, and in doing so, improve the MAR ratio of the compounded solution to 6.79. So now for the final piece de resistance. Given that I have improved my MAR ratio, I can now reduce my original equity balance of $45,000 to improve the compound annual growth rate. To do this, I return to the portfolio compiler worksheet and adjust the equity balance downwards and revert back to the summary tab to observe the impact. So if I reduce my opening balance to $30,000 from the original $45,000 balance, I lift my compound annual growth rate to 51.51%, but still achieve a drawdown that is lower than the risk-weighted solution of 9.16% and lies well within my maximum drawdown tolerance threshold. You can adjust this opening equity balance to any value provided that you are comfortable with the overall maximum drawdown signature of the portfolio. Well, that's a wrap, folks. I hope you enjoyed this overview in this two-part series. If you like what you see, then come on over to our shop on our website and purchase this compiler suite of tools. Our next video in this two-part series will show you how to quickly populate your compiler database with trade histories from a variety of different trading platforms, so that you can also go about compiling your own very powerful portfolios. So, if you like this video, then make sure you become a subscriber to this channel to receive further useful information about updates on our trading tools. Go on, click that subscribe button now. You can also read more about us at ATS by clicking on the website link below this presentation. Cheers, guys, and remember, there's gold in them there hills.